Hello, everyone, and welcome to Schwab Coaching. My name is Cameron May. I'm a Senior Manager of Trading and Derivatives Education here at Schwab, and this is Getting Started with Thinkorswim. And today we're going to be talking about what I call the other half of Thinkorswim. It's the left-hand sidebar where traders can store what they call their gadgets. Now, there's a lot in there. So I want to go through those tools in just as structured a way as possible. We're going to be going through a lot of information today. Don't get overwhelmed by it, but I think there's going to be interesting discoveries for just about everybody. Before we get to any of that, though, let me first of all say hello to everybody who's already chatting in out there in YouTube. I always like to keep an eye on the chats as they start rolling in before lunch. But hello there, Eva and John, Jim, Sunita, Life in the Fast Lane, Scott, JDLMI, Alfiero. Great to see everybody. It's always nice to see the familiar names. It's great to have you returning veterans. Thanks for your contributions to these discussions. It always helps. If you're here for the very first time, I want to welcome you as well. And if you're watching on the YouTube archive after the live stream is concluded, enjoy the recordings. That's a great way to watch these webcasts. But be aware that you're invited to join us in the live stream if you'd like to be here in the live audience. This is a Wednesday webcast series. We kick things off promptly at 2 Eastern time. I also want to let you know that Connie Hill is joining us in the chat. She's going to be addressing any questions that I can't get to that come in from the audience. Connie and I have been working together now for a couple of decades, so she brings a ton of experience to this. Thanks for having my back there, Connie. Connie and I would also like to issue an invitation to everybody listening to follow your favorite Schwab presenters on social media. So you can find both Connie and me on X. You can find Connie there at Connie Hill CS. Give her a follow there. You can also follow me on X at Cameron May CS. I'm very active there. And if you reply to one of my posts there, try to reply right back to you. It's the best way to connect with me in between the live streams. But let's get into this discussion of the gadgets on the Thinkorswim desktop platform. And as we do, a couple of quick reminders. Please bear this important information, these disclosures in mind. All corporate or issuer names and market data shown are for illustrative purposes only and are not a recommendation, offer to sell, or a solicitation of an offer to buy any security. Options carry a high level of risk and are not suitable for all investors. Schwab does not recommend the use of technical analysis as a sole means of investment research, and any investment decision you make in your self-directed account is solely your responsibility. All right, so John, you say you guys don't look that old? Believe it or not, John, I think I started into this coaching career when I was 32 and I'm 53 now. So yeah, it's been a while. That's kind of wild. Anyway, but here's what we're going to be talking about today. It's all about the gadgets in the left sidebar on Thinkorswim. There's a lot there to discuss, but I call it the other side of Thinkorswim that can kind of go under the radar. Lots of tools there. Maybe a lot of you might be aware of their existence, but possibly don't know exactly what they do. So I want to go through the menu of available tools and explore those in good detail, along with general navigation of the gadgets. So let's go right to the Thinkorswim desktop software platform. And if this is your first time on Thinkorswim, just be aware Thinkorswim desktop can be downloaded free of charge from within your Schwab online account. You just go to the trade tab and look for the keyword Thinkorswim, and then just click there and follow the prompts on screen. It'll help you with the download, but that's the software that we're using today. And specifically, we're focusing on this left sidebar. If you're logged in and you don't see it, it's because it can be hidden and revealed using the arrow right here in this margin separating the left sidebar from the rest of the Thinkorswim display area. So the first thing that we'll learn is that we can hide this and we can also reveal it just like that, back and forth. We can also resize this, and there are a number of reasons why we might want to resize this left sidebar. It can contain a lot of information, and maybe we want to see that in greater detail. So if we want to expand or contract, we just click on the margin, draw it out. That'll just sort of collapse that right side and give us more real estate to work with the left side. Or we can contract it by clicking and dragging that margin back. If we drag it too far, you'll see it snaps all the way to the left and just hides itself. So let's open that back up again. But so what in the world are these gadgets? Well, these are tools and resources that a trader might want to have quick access to at all times while navigating the rest of the platform. So sometimes it's kind of nice to be able to say, to access, let's say, some streaming news about a stock while we're looking at its chart. So lots of times when we might want to have access to two things at once, this enables that ability. So these are generically referred to, these different tools are generically referred to as gadgets, and they appear as headlines in the left column. So starting right up here at the top, we see account info, and you can see my current set of gadgets. Now, this is not a default set of gadgets, nor is there a prescribed set of gadgets. It's highly customizable to whatever the trader needs to see. So one thing that we need to know regarding the general navigation is that we can add gadgets by clicking a little plus sign down here at the bottom, and it gives us this menu. And I want to go through this menu today in greater detail. But for example, let's say we already have live news, we have a watch list, we have a calculator and a scratch pad. How about we wanted, let's say, a quick chart? And then we can type in a symbol here. Now, obviously, this might be a little bit redundant to have a chart here and a chart there, but when we're somewhere else on the platform, we still have access to that chart. So that can be nice. Let's bring that back up. So that's how we can add a gadget. We can also reorganize the gadgets by clicking on the little gear down here at the bottom called Customize Gadgets. And you can see here they are in their order. Live news first, watch list second, calculator third, and so on. Well, these can be reorganized by click and drag feature. So we'll click on, let's say, the calculator, which is right now below the watch list. How about we want to display that above the watch list? So I'm just going to click and drag that up, and now it's above the watch list. Or we can delete right from here. Now, I should say we can also delete using this menu. 3 dots and 3 dashes on Thinkorswim means there's a menu there. But how about we want to remove that quick chart? Well, we can come right here, click the little X, and it's gone. All right. So that's the general purpose and the navigation of these tools known as gadgets. But, oh, you know what? There's one other thing I do want to show you, because right now you can see these sort of inert, these sort of not activated arrows up and down right there. Those are for if we've expanded these. Let's say we've opened up. If you click on the little tick to the left of each of these gadget headings, it opens those up so we can see those. But if we do too many, the rest get hidden. So now I can see account info, I can see live news, I can see my calculator, but my watch list and my scratch pad have disappeared across the bottom. So I can resize things like this, maybe get access down here. But we can also, if things are kind of poking off down to the bottom, now you'll notice that my down arrow is activated, which means I can scroll down through these, and it'll give me access to the other ones. Anyway, if we minimize those, we don't need that function, but I did want to show that. All right, so let's start to acquaint ourselves with the gadgets. So what I'm going to do here is introduce us, first of all, to the account info, which is the only gadget that can't be deleted from the list. This is always just here to display our balances, the size of our portfolio, the amount of cash available, and things like that. JV Texan says, what are these phase scores? Shows up as -00 or just 00. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to try to get to everything I can, but obviously that means I'm going to be covering a lot of material. Don't feel like you have to memorize every click that I do today. This webcast is being recorded. It's scheduled to be added to our playlist on our Thinkorswim, on our YouTube channel. So you can go back and rewatch this, slow it down, revisit concepts if you need to, see the navigation again. But in any case, the account info is intended to tell us the basic information about our account. Great big revelation there, but it tells us our balances. And right now you'll see that those are not being currently displayed. That's because there's a privacy feature on this that's currently enabled. So I'm going to make this not private for just a moment. It's okay. It's just an example demonstration account, not real money here. But in any case, if you'll notice next to option buying power or net lick and day trades, there's a little triangle there. That means if we click on that triangle, there's a menu behind it. And this is where we can enable that privacy feature. Let's turn that privacy feature off so you can see now the balance is revealed. That's a nice feature. If you like your privacy about your personal financial information, that's a quick way we might preserve it if we're like at the library, or even if we're at home and we don't want, the nosy uncle walking behind us to see that. We can switch on that privacy feature. Now, another thing that we can do with so many of these tools, these gadgets, is to customize them. So if I were to come up here and click on the little menu again, I can customize the displayed fields. So let's say, for example, right Right now I'm seeing 4x buying power, but maybe we don't trade 4x. And by the way, when I mentioned 4x, my purpose here today is not to discuss Forex trading and all. Just be aware that there is a significant degree of leverage involved and lots of risks associated with Forex trading. So we need to be aware of any approach that we take to investing or trading before engaging with it, right? So, but in any case, let's customize this gadget, and maybe we don't need that being displayed. So we can remove that and click OK. And we can add other things, maybe just a plain old cash balance. We might want to add that. I'm not going to do that, but I do want to show that that's a possibility. But we'll just leave these defaults as they currently are. Now, as for the rest of these gadgets, they are customizable. We can see that we can add them, we can remove them, we can choose from a menu of available gadgets. So I want to go through that menu now. So let's start off. Let's have just one working gadget field. Now, I guess before we go to that, let me show two other things that we might do. First of all, if we have a gadget open, so you'll commonly see me in my webcasts using the calculator. With each of these gadgets, as with so many other functions on Thinkorswim, we can detach that field and let it operate as its own window. So I'm going to click on the little menu icon here, and I can detach that gadget. And now I can move it around. So now you'll notice that gives me access to the rest of the platform. I could move this over to a side screen if I wanted to. I could bring it back. I even still have access to the calculator here. It's just a second separate calculator. So detach is a big feature for a lot of our users of the gadgets, but another is that we can switch gadgets right here. So if we're currently using, let's say, the third gadget down for a calculator, and then I want to switch this to that, let's say the quick chart that we were using before. There we go. We could just switch that to a quick chart. Dennis says, can you make the clock bigger or as a widget? You're talking about just up here, ticking away? I don't know. I think rather than exploring, I'd have to experiment with that. Sometimes there are features that even I haven't discovered yet. That's certainly a possibility. But rather than exploring other features on the platform, my apologies, I'm going to kind of stay in the one lane. And we're just going to be looking at this so that those who watch this in the future get what they click to see. All right, so my apologies. I just sort of keep it on track. In any case, so those are some additional navigational features that we want to be aware of in using these gadgets here, and it can be very useful. Now, let's get into the individual gadgets in the menu. So let's go down here and click on Add Gadget, and that brings up the menu. And I just want to start working down through Calculator, self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into that. So let's move on to the Chart Describer. So let's add that. That now becomes our sixth gadget here. And you can stack the gadgets up. I don't know exactly how many we can fit in here, but obviously pretty soon we'd start to run out of space. We'd have to do a lot of scrolling to use these. But let's look at the Chart Describer. How many of you have actually used Chart Describer either here or on the chart itself? Because the Chart Describer does exist right up here as an icon. That'd be interesting. But the Chart Describer, basically, let's type in a symbol. I think I'm going to pick on Walmart today. Let's just let that be our operating symbol through most of this discussion, just to introduce some continuity and avoid sort of unnecessary complication of the discussion. Well, when we enter the Chart Describer, let's widen this out a little bit, and you'll notice there are 3 default time frames. And what the Thinkorswim system does is it looks at popular studies or potentially big developments with other studies, and then displays those for those time frames. So if I click on, let's say, 1 year, 1 day, this gives me a note here. Hey, the standard deviation channel over a 21-day period has an upper value of 137.55 and a lower of 118.48. Interestingly, that would position Walmart right near the middle of that standard deviation channel. Now, not everybody is a technician. This might not be terribly meaningful for those that don't use charts a lot, but for those that do, this can maybe draw the attention to something new that's developing on an indicator that the trader hasn't been recently viewing. It'll also tell us here Looks like something's happening with a 9-period simple moving average, 126.86. So right now price is above that. Great. On a shorter time frame, let's see what else we might see. Let me take a look at the 5-day, 5-minute. Looks like it's not really identifying anything big happening with some commonly used indicators, but that chart describer is an interesting tool. I'll let you explore that on your own. But we're going to move on to the next one. As we do, I do see something that I need to call your attention to that's not something that I plan to discuss. And that is, as I look at the chat window, I see that there's been a survey link that's been added for the benefit of your presenter through the eyes of my audience. Guys, if you would click the survey link, if you're here in my live stream audience right now, and you can give me some honest feedback at the end of today's discussion, that's always helpful. What I'll tell you is that if you take the time to fill out a survey, I take the time to read through that data. I read through your comments. Definitely helps. Never a wasted effort. All right, everybody. So let's get back to the discussion here. I suppose one final thing I'll note about the chart describer is that whatever the shortest time frame is, and there can be other securities, other symbols where it uses different default time frames, but whatever the shortest time frame is, in this case, it's the 1-day, 1-minute time frame, that's how often this will update. So it can bring us up to speed on potential new developments on the chart. If we wanted to update right away, we can actually click on this little refresh icon right down here at the bottom, and that'll provide an immediate update. So for example, right now, it is 12:16 Mountain Time. I'm sitting in the mountains of Utah right now. And so now this is updated because I've refreshed it. All right, so there's our chart describer. Let's switch our gadget and move on to the next one, which is our dashboard. Okay, this one's pretty quick to learn. It's basically, we just type in our symbol again, and this brings up a buy and sell box with a customizable quantity field. Now, one thing that I might suggest be done, I always take my suggestions with a grain of salt, not everybody likes to do things this way, is to link these gadgets. If you're not familiar with linking, what this does is it links the symbol in one tool with the symbol of another tool. So for example, now that these are linked, I already had Walmart displayed both in the chart and in the dashboard, but if I were to switch this, let's switch it over to like General Electric, you'll notice now that those are linked, we can see General Electric automatically populated in our tool here. And as a matter of fact, if I go up to my some other tool, let's say to Live News, if this is linked as well, GE will automatically populate there as well. So that linking feature is a big deal. Now, when you first use it, it gives you a whole menu of numbers. That's because some people like to have, one tool linked to just this one other tool. So they'll choose, let's say, a 2 on each one of those. So they're linked together. And then they have a second pairing of tools, and they prefer to have those 2 linked together. So they might use a 3 for each of those. But if whatever number we choose, every tool that has the same number selected is going to be linked with that tool. All right. So, but our dashboard tool just gives us very quick access to more sort of visual, traditional buy and sell features. And this quantity is customizable. If I click on that quantity, I can change that. Let's say that we have a trader who typically doesn't trade in lots of 100 shares. Maybe they buy 500 or 50 shares. So we can just change that quantity. As we change our symbol, that quantity remains. And if we click on one of these, it creates a buy or a sell order that's reviewable. It doesn't immediately send off an order to buy. But if I were to click on buy, for example, now here's my buy order over here. I can customize it if necessary and then send it off. I'm just going to delete that though. There we go. That's our dashboard tool. Denise says, is this how you set up your system? Exactly, Denise. So this webcast series is dedicated to the navigation and usage of the thinkorswim desktop platform. So yeah, so once we understand all the tools, we can choose the ones that we like and eliminate the ones that we're not using, and we can just set up the platform how we prefer to. So you've already seen that these tools are customizable. I can add to the list, I can reduce the list, I can change the gadgets being used. And speaking of that, let's go back to our menu and let's switch to our next gadget. So we've learned the chart describer, the dashboard, the FX or currency map. Again, this is making reference to foreign exchange, the exchange of currencies, basically, between countries. And this just shows us how different currencies are currently performing against the US dollar. Now we can use a different benchmark currency if we like. But as I go across this map, I can see Canadian dollars a little bit weaker today. The Norway, I don't even know the currency, Norway. I should check that out. Anyway, what is it? Somebody tell me. Anyway, you can just check the currencies in different countries and see whether they're strengthening or softening against the US dollar. Interesting tool there. But again, quick reminder, with Forex trading, foreign exchange trading or currencies trading, there's a lot of leverage there. With everything, we want to understand the risks associated with an investment or a trading undertaking before trading, right? So there's our currency map. Let's switch up with our next gadget, which is level 2 trading. Level 2. Let me select that. Let's enter a symbol here again. Yes, we can link this if we choose to. So if we switch to a different symbol here, we get this level 2 information here. Or if we switch the gadget, the symbol on our chart will switch. But this is basically showing us the different exchanges and the most favorable prices for different securities from different exchanges. So by default, what we're seeing here is the exchange providing a quote. And on the left here are the bid prices. Let's say these are for those that are trying to sell securities. On the right are the ask prices. So we see bid and ask here. So with a bid, as a seller, we want to see the highest prices. Where can we sell at the highest price? With the ask, typically we want to pay the lowest prices. Where can we buy at the lowest price? So with the ask, the lowest quote from the most favorably priced exchange will be displayed here. With the bid, the highest quote from the most favorably priced exchange will be displayed here. Now, along with that, we can see, so we see the exchange that's providing the quote, the price, and then also the size available. So we see the bid size, in this case 200 shares. Over here we see the ask size, in this case 125. Now we can choose among the different books. We can just leave it on level 2, or if we have a preference, we can switch to NASDAQ full book or the BATS Edge full book. I would say most users probably do just leave it at the level 2 difference. Kong Mila says, what does level 2 help us? Is there a video on this? So Kong Mila, this would typically be for a trader who is very, very, very keenly interested in price. And they want to know where those quotes are coming from and try to get the best price possible. Although I will say with Thinkorswim, it defaults to the most favorable exchange price anyway. So there may not be an advantage to the trader, but there are those that do like to check the level 2 quotes, and that's how they would do that. So moving on, let's switch up to our next gadget. Let's learn the next one, which is lines. And by the way, when we get down here to market depth, it's going to be essentially very similar to level 2. But lines is a game. I'll let you play with that game if you want to. I'm going to move on. Just know that there are some gadgets that are for trading. There are some gadgets that are maybe to relieve the pressure of trading or investing for a time, a distraction. Let's switch on from lines. Well, live audio. Live audio is where we can access, maybe we have a favorite online audio service we like to listen to. So we can refresh for a list of available services. We can seek a custom service if there's one that we like to listen to. It's literally like an online radio program or something like that. That's what live audio is. So I won't spend too much time on that. Live news, on the other hand, very different. Alfiero says, best part of the gadgets is loading up your own personal search list. That's a nice feature, isn't it? That's right over here. Let's see if we can hurry up and get to it. All right. But in any case, live news is where we can just, well, but if we select this, by default, it's just going to be showing us, let's say, big news headlines, developments with large companies, or we can get streaming news information, headlines relating to a specific company. So if I type in as an example, Walmart, I can see headlines that are specific to Walmart. And if I want to see the details of those news releases, if there's an attached article for that headline, I can just double click. So it looks like this first one, RBC Capital maintains outperform on Walmart. As I double click on that, it doesn't really bring up, there's not an associated article. Let's see if we can find one that has one. Not everyone. No, I'm not going to click around too many more times and just fail. Anyway, just know that is a feature that some use to keep an eye on live news as it develops and as it's published. A couple of things that you should be aware of here is we can choose a keyword search feature right here. This little tag might allow us to search by, let's say, our own keyword if we have something specific that we're looking for, or maybe it's a let's broaden this out. Let's take out Walmart and let's do a keyword search for just say, let's say energy, because energy stocks have been going crazy. Not that I'm saying buy energy, I'm just saying they seem to have been going up quite a bit. That's how we could quickly do a keyword search. We can link this to other tools on Thinkorswim. We can also look for news associated with, let's say, a watch list that we've constructed or a public watch list that Thinkorswim has maintained and published. So moving on to our next tool. Next gadget is the market depth. And as I mentioned, with market depth, this is quite similar. What it's doing is giving us exchange information and default best bid and ask prices and the sizes associated with those. We can do that for an individual stock, or we can close that out and enter another stock. So there's our market depth tool. We have our message center, this is where Thinkorswim communicates with, sometimes you'll see like a message pop up on Thinkorswim as just a pop-up, which might mean that, let's say, an alert that we had set up on a security has triggered. Maybe there's an education event that we need to let people know about. Those sorts of things can show up in the message center, and we can scroll down through that right here. So there's our message center. Switch up our gadget. Minesweeper, another game. Phase scores. Somebody asked about phase scores. All right. So these, let's bring in, should we just stick with Walmart, I guess? So phase scores are customizable ways that a trader might score a stock automatically according to preferred fundamental and technical metrics, giving up arrows and down arrows. In other words, like a thumbs up or a thumbs down to different elements of a company. So by default, when we go to the phase scores, we have growth metrics or income metrics. How about we switch it over to income metrics, and let's open up our income phase scores. And you can see it's already displaying a few potential things, but somebody asked, why does it say 0 over 0? Well, that's because we haven't yet customized our scoring of these different elements. So for example, let's say that our investor is keeping an eye, maybe they're an income-oriented investor, and they're looking for maybe above average dividend yields. Dividend yields right now on average are like 1.1%, 1.15% for an S&P 500 dividend paying company. Walmart is paying a 0.9% yield. That's a little under average. Well, let's click on the little gear icon here. No, actually, I'm okay with the way this is currently constructed. Let's come up here and let's edit. It has enabled the ratio. Let's click on this. And for the dividend yield, we can add a condition. So watch this condition. Do you need me to show you that again? I kind of did that a little bit quickly. Let's cancel that. So if we click on income, we can edit this group. And I'm going to put in like an up or a down criteria. So let me click on this little gear icon. And for dividend yield, we're going to add a condition. So for our first condition, let's say we want to give a thumbs up or an up arrow if the dividend yield happens to be, let's say 2%, just as an example. And we're going to, so that's going to be our up arrow. Our down arrow, we're going to add a condition if it's below, let's say 1.1%. So that's average or below. Otherwise, we'll just say it's neutral. It doesn't earn an up or a down arrow. So we're just going to click done, done, and save. And what you'll see now is, hey, our dividend yield earned itself a down arrow because it's below 1.1. And so our score, since we only have one metric that's being measured, it's a 0 out of 1. Okay. Eva's saying phase scores are back. Yeah, they've been on here for quite a while, Eva. But yeah, these are things that can be customized. So I'm going to let you explore these, but we can add additional groups. So let's say we have growth, we have income by default. Maybe a trader or an investor wants to add a value group and add associated metrics to that and give that up and down scores. Let me see. I'm gonna experiment with one more thing here. Yeah, there it is. Yep, there we go. I knew there was a shorter way than what I showed you. So with the displayed default metrics, as we point at the row for each one of those, there's a little hidden menu icon right there. So if we click on that, we can edit our arrow up and our arrow down, add or remove conditions. Let's just take a look. There we go. Save, and we're done. So those are our phase scores. Let's move on to our next tool, and I might need to be a little bit, let's see where we are. Quick chart. No, that's not going to take long. Quick quote. Just seeing if I need to be selective in the interest of time, but I think we're going to be all right. So let's go to our quick chart. Let's add a symbol here, and this is literally just a small chart where the trader can keep an eye on maybe technical developments as they navigate around other areas of the platform. But this is customizable, much like the larger charts. So if I expand this out further, you'll see that there are the drawing tools that we're used to, there are the chart styles that we're used to, and yes, we can add different technical studies. So like we could put on a moving average if we like. And then as we move from one symbol to the next, we have that technical data. Now, one thing that I would point out here is that quite commonly, our traders might like to detach. Let's click on the correct menu here. This one right up to the right of the gadget label. Click on the little menu icon, and we can detach that gadget. And now we have a resizable chart that we can maybe put off the left. I actually have a multi-monitor setup here at home, so I can move this over to the right. But in any case, that's our quick chart tool. And yes, it can be linked to other tools. Let's pull this in a little bit, give us more space for the right display area, and move on to our next gadget, which is going to be quick quote. Just as it says, as it implies, this is just intended to get quick access to quote information, including last price, net change, bid, and ask. Now, if we want to do other things with that symbol, once we have added it to our quick quote, we can buy, we can sell, we can send it over to a different link. Here we go. Let's switch up our gadget and use the scratch pad for just a moment. Scratch pad, pretty straightforward. You see me use it all the time, but it allows us to make notes to ourselves that stay there until we choose to delete those, or we can say, you know, a nice message to our audience, and it has other typical sort of word-oriented features like bold and italicizing, underlining, changing the color, that kind of thing. And it is a detachable gadget. Switch to the next one. We have another game. Time and sales. Let's see. Denise says, can this switch between options trading and just for regular investing, or do you have to have two accounts? Yeah, well, do you mean can we change the whole platform? No. Can we change individual features? Yes, we can. So we could, you know, for example, open up two quick charts and have two symbols, or options are also chartable. We could have a dedicated quick chart for our stocks if we want to, and for our options if we want to. All right, but times and sales. If you're not familiar with times and sales, quite commonly traders like to see what other traders are doing. We're kind of snoopy, right? Well, this will just tell us with a timestamp, trades that have been happening. Notice these are literally seconds that are going by, and it's showing us the trades that are happening. It's showing the price at which the most recent trade or trades are happening, the size of those trades. These are literally 2 shares of Walmart just were sold, 16 shares were just sold, 56 shares were just purchased, and so on. All right. Paul says, can you have saved setups for different styles? Oh, yeah, actually, Paul, so yes, there is a feature where we can basically save what's called a workspace. Give it a name. Yep. So maybe that would also go back to Denise's question. If you're speaking more broadly, I might have to backtrack because I wasn't thinking along these lines. I'm sort of in my gadgets lane for just a moment. But yes, I'm not going to demonstrate it because we don't have time, but we can save workspaces where we set it up the way we want it, give it a name, set it up a different way, give it another name, and go back and forth between workspaces. So there's time and sales, times and sales. Let's switch our gadget. We have Trade Flash. Trade Flash is basically, if we don't have a symbol entered, it's going to potentially call our attention to great big equity trades, great big options trades, great big futures trades, those kinds of things. So notice I haven't put a symbol in yet, so it's saying, hey, on X, well, let's use maybe PCG. On PCG, there was a big delta trade. That's an options trade. Somebody just bought 4,325 contracts for the 20th of March 2026, 18 strike call for 27 cents. So that might be interesting to an options trader, for example. Or if we do want to see if there's anything big that's happened in this trading session for a specific stock, let's go over to Walmart, and it looks like nothing really prominently large has happened with Walmart today. But that's what the Trade Flash is. Now, right here again, you'll notice there's our little tag. And what this allows us to do is if we're not really interested in, let's say, large futures trading, we don't need to see those. We don't need to necessarily see large options trades. Maybe don't need to see trades on illiquid options. So let's use that as our tag. And now you'll see we're just looking at big equity trades. There was a large equity trade on Philip Morris. All right. So you have to do a little feature there. Let's switch on. I think some of you are probably discovering new things. We just have a couple more. We have a few minutes to do these, so let's do them quickly. Trader TV is literally streaming television programming, including the Schwab Network, including CNBC US, Europe, or Asia. All that we need to do is select the network and then click the play button. I'm not going to do that today because the stream can tend to bog down my presentation, but that's how we might use that tool. Now we have Use the News, which is basically big news developments in different sectors. We can look in specific sectors by clicking on the little tag icon again. We can look at maybe the most popular, or just using the defaults. If we go to, let's say, maybe we've been keeping our eye on financials. If we click on, say, Hood, that's going to give us our big headline that seems to have developed on Hood. All right. Let's see if we can get through. Let's switch our gadget. We have one left. We have our watch list. So Norm's video says, and this is a good question, Norm's video, on times and sales. Why is there buy trade versus sell trade? Aren't they always paired together? Isn't someone always selling and someone always buying? Well, that's the reason why we have something known as a market maker in the middle to help line up buyers with sellers or to take the other side of a transaction. So the quick answer is not actually no. So this just identifies for us whether that transaction was initiated either as a buy or as a sell, because they really are sort of initially independent of one another. Good question. All right. So finally, let's talk about watch lists. Traders like to keep their eyes on different lists of stocks for all sorts of different reasons. They might be in different sectors. They might be different value or income stocks that a trader is considering or an investor is considering purchasing. But we can create and delete all kinds of different watch lists. So for example, one thing that we need to be aware of is that Thinkorswim actually creates and publishes example watch lists. So if I click on the little watch list heading here, I can find the public watch lists and maybe bring up, like, let's say the S&P 500. So this is a watch list of the component companies of the S&P 500. I can see what those are. I can see their last price, how much they have changed in price, their current bid and ask, or I can customize these columns on the watch list right here with all sorts of different metrics, potential metrics. So for example, maybe I want to see if they're paying a dividend. So I can add that as a column. I don't want to save. Let's just click OK. In any case, and I can see dividend yields for each of these securities. So these are customizable, or we can just create a watch list right from scratch. So let's say I'm going to select create a watch list, and maybe it's going to be our dividend watch list. And we just start typing in symbols. Now I'm just going to make up some symbols here, just grabbing them off the top of my head, just out of convenience. I'm going with the ones that have literally one letter in the symbol. But that's how we might save a new watch list. So we can create watch lists, we can save watch lists. It gives us quick access to information about companies that we have an interest in. And as a matter of fact, even if we've created a scan and saved a scan, those will appear here as well. So if I look at the public watch lists, these that have this little almost looks like a copyright logo next to it. But in any case, those are scans. So if I go to my personal watch list, I can see, for example, my dividend scan. And here are stocks resulting from a dividend scan. But guys, so much more we could have discussed. I hope that this has been an interesting introduction to you, though, for the gadgets. And boy, we covered a lot of territory. Went through that entire menu in just one 45-minute presentation. But as always, if you have an interest in a specific topic, let me take you right over here. I'm going to make a suggestion for you that you should be taking advantage of the full slate of offerings available to you free of charge from Schwab Education. So if you have more interest in learning about these gadgets, first of all, make sure that you're subscribed to our Trader Talks channel here on YouTube. You can go down, click on the subscribe button. It only takes a second, doesn't cost anything to do that. But that's where you can find our live streams like this one right now. You can find playlists of previous live streams, or you can do searches. So for example, if I want to learn more about gadgets, I wonder what Brent Moores has to say about these. Or there's Connie Hill, Mastering the Gadgets Bar. Here's a previous discussion that I've had. So great resource there. Make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. But Connie and I would also like to suggest that you follow your favorite Schwab presenters on social media. You can follow us both on X. You can find Connie on X at Connie Hill CS. You can find me on X at Cameron May CS. There's my handle on X. This is the guy you're looking for right there. But I'm very active here. For example, I just made a post this morning and people are replying to it, and I'll go in here and reply to those posts. It's the best place to connect with me in between the live streams. So you can follow us on X. You can also follow me on LinkedIn. Just go to linkedin.com/in and then throw on /Cameron May CS. That'll take you right to my profile. You can give me a follow there. And I post here as well, also to reply to comments here. So that's where to connect with me in between the live streams when the camera's not on. All right, time for me to let you go. Thanks everybody for all the likes. That's definitely appreciated. I can see 130 people watching the live stream, 39 likes already. That sounds like applause to me. It also gives a boost to my videos in the YouTube algorithm, helps more people find these videos. But this is also your final reminder. There is a survey for those that are here in the live stream audience. So if you now click that survey link, if you haven't done it already, time to give me some feedback. It's just 2 questions, a multiple, and then a comments box and a suggestion box. If you fill that survey out, I will see it. I definitely read through that data. Your comments definitely help. Thanks, guys. I will see you in a future webcast. I'll also look for you on X and on Thinkorswim, on X and on LinkedIn. But whenever I see you again, until that moment arrives, I want to wish you the very best of luck. Happy trading. Bye-bye.